Alright folks, this is Les again from 6S1. We're back with our second installment of our behind the scenes weekly, and here you're going to see a quick look into adding shades of gray into some of our comic book artwork. This is where we're working on our first graphic novel. This is Apocalypse Girl, and we're just going to take a look at this panel, and here you can see inside Manga Studio how we have our artwork laid out inside here. Here's the original rough sketch. I think it was actually pulled. Originally I did a sketch in my sketchbook, scanned it, brought it in, then kind of worked from that and did a slightly tighter version. Then from there inked in background elements, then added some hatching. Then you have the girl's hand added, one of her hands. I add some highlights to those background elements. That needs to move down a bit. Then there's Papa, and then there's her other hand and the strap. This is a scene where she's found his body and she's removing his gear to take it with her. So we're going to start out by adding a new layer over top of our background elements. We're going to set it to multiply, set its color, or set its expression color to color. And then here you'll see I have just a very small palette of gray tones put together. And I have a brush that's set up with kind of a spattering effect. And so what I'm going to do here is kind of go into the background and very loosely spray this in. Okay. The real purpose in adding this is to kind of add an extra layer of separation in the artwork to let the characters pop from the background just a little bit more, maybe add some more depth to things. So let's turn these other layers back on. Here we have that highlight layer, which I'm going to put back underneath my tones. Okay. So if we turn that off and back on, you can see just how much depth that immediately adds into things. I'm going to switch to a pencil, and its blend mode is set to multiply. I'm going to use that to just add in some finer lines here and there, sort of pick and choose some details that I just want to bring out. And since it's in multiply mode, it really acts very similar to the way traditional ink washes would blend layers and layers of ink. Just the way that stuff flows together, it's very similar to the multiply blend mode. And on these background elements, I'm really not too concerned about how tight I am with that, because I'm also going to go back in with some white set to screen, and then use that to pick out some details and help just reinforce the shapes. So, if I go outside some lines or whatever, that's okay. And especially since it's an ink wash look, I mean, you have a lot of freedom with that. And we could also turn on the watercolor border, which gives us obviously a little bit of a watercolor effect to it. So, just going to bring out some highlights here and there. Let's go back to multiply. Go back to our darker gray. Really push this stuff a little bit. And I want to make sure that I'm kind of get some of these pieces of rubble popping away from the background just a little bit more. So it might be a bit much there. I'll just go back to screen mode. Take our density down, just real gently go back over that. You'll see it brings back some of our details, lets us see some of the ink, the original inks showing through a little bit more. Alright, so now the next place I want to look at is going to be I want to deal with his details. So I'm going to control click on his layer, create a new layer above him, and then add a mask to it based on that. We'll set that layer to multiply. Then I'm going to set its expression to color. And for my characters, I tend to work just with the pencil instead of using the brush. So we'll set that to multiply. I'm just going to follow the forms around the figure. Really just want to accent things, kind of bring out the shape that's there. Don't want to go so overboard that it kind of would destroy the original inks, but it's just a good way to add some form and depth. Take a look in here at some of the folds in the glove. Start out by kind of accenting those, then increase our brush size and go over that a little stronger there. Come back through around his collar, help separate the tubing away from it, kick in a little bit of shadow there on the mask. And once I have all these basic grays in place, let's follow some of these veins. Once I have those basic grays in place, then I'm going to come back in with white, and I'm going to set my brush to screen. Yeah, you can use this as an opportunity, like here I'm kind of adding in just a little bit more veining. Just use it as a chance to add in little things and maybe give a sense of texture in some spots. Go back over these veins a little bit more right here to increase my brush density too, so I don't have to keep going over the same strokes over and over so much. Okay. Cause those rim lights to pop a little more right there. I think I'm just going to take a pass over all of this to just generally lighten it back up a little bit so it jumps away from the background some more. And that should do it, I think, for him. So as I turn that layer on that is for her arm, pulling a strap away from him, I can see that I probably want to add some shadow. Just really make that lift away. Okay. So now we'll turn on the other layers. Let's see, that's him. Here's her arm. So I'll control click that, create a new layer above it, set it to color, multiply, add a layer mask. And then for her, being a female form, even though all we see is her arms, we really don't need to go too hard on the black, on those dark grays. We don't need to overdo that. We can go a little crazy with the glove and with some of the darkness there. Just want to make it pop. So now we'll go back to white, set it back to screen. And soften things up just a little tiny bit. Let's increase that density again. That will do it for that. So now we're going to control click the layer for the arm that's in the foreground, and again, same process, create a new layer, set it to multiply, set expression to color, and add a mask to it. So now we're going to set our brush back to multiply, turn my density back down a little bit, follow the forms that I know should be there in the arm, just kind of bring those things out a little bit, but not too much. And we can create a little more depth there just by darkening that up. Let's increase our density. Kind of a handy technique here is to, with your brush in multiply mode, boost the density and just go over some of the darker, heavier elements in ink, or heavier inked elements, so that you're accenting the existing ink lines. Then once you've gone over those lines a little bit, then you can come back through with a little softer, little lighter brush density on a little larger brush. You'll see, because it's multiply, it'll keep those original strokes there, so you'll have those defined shapes, but then you'll be able to tone out the rest of it. And again, we're going to switch back to screen. I'm going to increase my density and brush hardness a little bit, switch back to white. And then we're just going to go over some of those highlight areas a little bit, help make this jump away. Alright. Let's take our hardness back down and our density back down. And there you have it. Let's close all that back up and take a look at it zoomed out. There you go. That's a quick look into doing the way that we're going about doing the gray tones in Apocalypse Girl. There's probably 1,000 different ways that you could do gray tones in your own comic. You know, this just happens to be kind of this ink wash meets airbrush sort of style that I've developed for this that I'm real happy with. So anyway, hope that's helpful. Do see where I forgot the strap there, so let's go in and touch on that before I completely close all this up. Back to multiply, back to our gray. I'm just going to go straight over that whole strap right there, nice and dark. I'll switch back to screen, back to white, brush density up, hardness up, bring back out the edges, and bring back out the stitches. Set hardness back down, the density back down. Just lighten that whole thing up just a little tiny bit. Alright. Sometimes you spot little things like that after the fact. So there we go. And I'm ready to call that done. So you have it. I hope that's helpful, and hope you stick around, keep watching stuff. You know, check us out, 6s1.com or facebook.com/6s1media, and you know, catch you next week.